I'd love to spend a little bit of time talking about like how AdQuick sort of built out this out of home network, because historically out of home was had this like very fragmented group of providers, and then it seems like AdQuick sort of aggregates it all into one place in this beautiful digital format, and there's like 1,500 plus premium providers. Like, how did the company sort of go about building out this network? How did you convince people? I mean, was it just a giant sort of biz dev sales effort? Can you kind of tell that story a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Having worked at multiple marketplaces, I would be remiss not to tell you that most great marketplaces start with CSV uploads. So, in the beginning, we built inventory ingestion systems, and so every media owner in the space, large or small, had a custom Excel grid that they used. With various attribute and value pairs. And basically, we just built an ingestion engine to take all these unique grids and then, kind of standardize them and build it into a model on our back end. But, those were the early days. As we grew, media owners were also building their internal systems. So in the landscape of the supply side of our marketplace, so the media owner companies, there's about 3-4 large players. They are publicly traded. They do billions in revenue. There's a smaller cohort. So that group does like about 40% of most of the inventory in the space. And then there's like this middle tier, this mid-market tier where, maybe they have like 100 to 200 or to 1,000 units in multiple markets. They typically just run a good sales process. And then there's your mom and pops who have just a couple pieces of inventory. So it was important for us to delineate and understand the differences in those supply side participants. And so we started with working with the people with the most inventory. And so, they built out the capabilities internally to give us, at first we started with lat long, lat longitude, and then the name and the owner. Eventually that grew into having impression data, having availability, having pricing data. And a lot of these developments over time helped us streamline the data exchange, because one of the biggest pain points, if you ask advertiser or agency, the biggest challenge or the biggest pain point is the constant back and forth of like, hey, is this available? Hey, are you looking at this billboard in this spreadsheet or in this PowerPoint deck? And it was very disheveled and disorganized and fragmented. And so we just made it really easy to put it in one place. We also noticed that, so that was one subset. And then there's like the mid tier of the market, which they didn't really have in-house software capabilities. And so from previous marketplaces, we had learned that it's just best to build out tools for the supply side to use. We built those tools out so we can get easy access into their pricing and availability. We saw that as a competitive advantage because at the time, and I think this is still pretty much true, but like most agencies, if they're doing things, the old-fashioned way, they're spending 2-3 months on a billboard campaign in a couple cities. And so we built the the inventory management piece, the request for proposal piece, the sales tools for the supply side of our marketplace, and we gave that away for free. And then that was a great way of getting early traction. And then the remainder of the long tail, we pretty much just scraped actually. So the funny thing is, since billboards are a real estate asset, they have to be registered with the Department of Transportation. So one hacky thing that we did in the early days was scrape all these permits. And but I think to kind of summarize where this was all headed is, you can buy digital inventory for your marketing investments in a split second. And very much like Expedia did for the airline industry, what we wanted to get, the place that we wanted to get to was, hey, this is available. I know how much it costs, and I know that my audience is a great fit for where this placement is. And so, I made it sound super, super clean, but it was super messy. I think we had a biz dev team headed up by Katie Burwell, who's a credible woman who has deep expertise and knowledge of the out of home landscape. So She had been at previous media owners, and so she led those initiatives. And one by one, doing the things that don't scale, bringing the people online, teaching them the value of the product, and ultimately, that's how we built it up. Now we look for bigger acquisition chunks. We're now in 90 countries, so we'll typically try to plug into other networks, and so we can have like the most broadest reaching set of inventory in the globe.
It's a super interesting story. And it really is a great job of kind of articulating how you actually stand up a marketplace. I love it's like, all right, it is a CSV upload, because it's like you kind of got to get on the radar of all these different, the mom and pop providers, but then I assume the big players, the Clear Channels, Outfronts, those types of folks. And I assume the pitch to them is, hey, we're going to drive you leads and business, right? And so we're kind of this interface, and then we're going to send you a bunch of business. And I assume that's kind of like why they're willing to partner with AdQuick.
Yeah. And they've been incredible partners to date. The big three, we now have direct APIs, so our systems talk to one another. That was something that we had dreamed of in the early days. This would be so much easier if they were a software company, but they're not. These are some are family-run businesses that have been around 100 years. Some are spin-offs from large conglomerates, also that are very old. But they've been working with us, and it's been a great. We've been very happy with the progress that we've made in that department.
Yeah, it's funny as you're telling the story of like how you digitized all this, because I remember when I bought billboards at Lattice, I had like I was like a beautiful mind. I had my series of spreadsheets and my PDFs to figure out the placement. And then I'm like going on Google Maps and Street View to be like, where is this location? And then I even remember me and the two co-founders of Lattice, like driving down the 101 with a laptop and me being like, slow down. That's the billboard we're going to get. Slow down, so we could actually go and see the actual placements of where we wanted to buy. And it was fun, but it was like quite the process. So it's really cool how AdQuick kind of like makes that all digital, and it's just like, at your fingertips, as opposed to kind of doing all of that work that I had to do back in the day.
Yeah. And we sat down with those users very closely, both on the advertiser side and the agency side, to understand their process, what was important to them. And we just took those activities and built them into features. So at first, AdQuick was literally a map with inventory, some pictures on it, and hooked up to a contracting system. And then we started adding in like planning features that made that process a lot faster. So our name is AdQuick. That was the initial value proposition. So, something that takes you a couple months, you can now execute within the span of a week and a half. But we layered on the ability to do like demographic targeting, zip code based targeting, points of interest. So, hey, find me every billboard near a Starbucks. So we plugged in a bunch of APIs that powered the location intelligence there, and that made it super easy to do like, hey, I want all the billboards within like two miles of a Carl's Jr. or something, or a Taco Bell. And we were able to build out those functionalities. And then most recently, the final piece is audiences. So the digital audiences that you use in your day-to-day for your marketing investments are now readily transferable to use for planning in the real world, which is kind of neat.